I'll never forget our first Sunday in our brand new multi-million dollar worship center. We'd moved out of our old building, but our new building wasn't ready, so we had 6 weeks wandering between borrowed facilities in the dead of winter. But we finally had our own state-of-the-art building on the 5 acres of land. The smell of new carpet, fresh paint, and the absolute joy of our congregation created actually one of the most memorable Sundays of my ministry life. But here's the harsh truth. That dream would never have become reality without our church's sacrificial giving to secondary giving programs. And your big dreams and plans, I believe, will never come to fruition unless you can lead your church into giving above and beyond their regular tithes. In my new book, Church Financial Excellence, I talk about how to run a secondary giving program extensively and lay it all out for you in the book. And in this video, you're going to discover the complete system for secondary giving programs that can raise 50% additional funds beyond your regular offerings. Now, whether you need fund building projects, a renovation of your current building, local mission outreaches, or global missions, this video is going to give you the proven framework that's helped churches raise millions of dollars. By the end, you'll know exactly how to implement this in your church, regardless of your size or your current giving levels. So what exactly is a secondary giving program? It's a system designed to give people an opportunity to contribute above and beyond their regular tithe. It'll release extra funds for your church's vision. It'll enable growth and expansion and also be a brilliant discipleship season in the life of your church. And I think here's what too many pastors don't realize. Churches that implement these programs typically see between 25 to 50% of their regular annual giving raised additionally for special projects, let alone the discipleship benefits of people learning to give sacrificially. For instance, if your church receives $100,000 annually in regular offerings, an established, well-run secondary giving program can generate another $25,000 to $50,000 for buildings and for missions work. In our church, we started with building programs to fund our new worship center and then transitioned to missions, local and global, in our secondary giving programs. Over 20 years of leading our church, we raised over $5 million for local and global missions through these programs. Money that transformed countless lives and enabled us to plant 6 churches in those 20 years. And the key principle I discovered and I outline at length in my book, Church Financial Excellence, is one bucket, many funnels. People give to one program, let's call it Vision Builders, and funds are then distributed through multiple channels, multiple funnels, if you like. Buildings, local missions, global missions. You work out where you're going to send that finance. This keeps raising of money streamlined while addressing and helping various needs of your church. Now, the heart of an effective secondary giving program is the Faith Promise program, the Faith Promise system. But let me clarify what a faith promise really means, because a lot of people misunderstand it. A faith promise is not this. I'd like to give $1,000 in the next 12 months, so I'll make a commitment to give $1,000 and then I'll believe God to help me fulfill it. Nah, that's backwards. And it leads to unfulfilled promises that actually damage both the church members' walk with Christ because of the disappointment and the expectation that's broken, but also doesn't help the church budget well and plan to budget well. A true faith promise works like this. You promise to give $1,000 and you give it, just like you pay your mortgage bill, your power bill, and then you use your faith to believe God, to Him to provide all your needs, despite the sacrifice that you're making. You're committed to your promise of $1,000. Maybe it's so much a month or it's a one-time gift, but then you're going to trust the Lord, believe the Lord to fill the gap that comes through that sacrificial gift. This is absolutely crucial to communicate clearly to your church when launching your program. People need to understand they're making a commitment they can fulfill and then exercise faith for God's provision in their lives. This creates genuine spiritual growth. And one of the things I love about secondary giving programs is the lift in discipleship that comes into people's lives through sacrificial giving. And also, you'll be able to absolutely budget on realistic budget projections for your church because people are making a promise they plan on fulfilling. Now, here's a tip also about the secondary giving programs. Pastor, don't run these alone. Build a team of half a dozen or so people with different portfolios, administration, comms, marketing, prayer, events. In fact, prayer is absolutely central to this process. I personally believe the fiercest spiritual warfare you'll face in ministry will occur around your evangelism endeavors to bring people to Jesus and also the raising of resources to ensure the church is built, the kingdom is advanced. You'll encounter opposition when you try to fund kingdom work, especially when you do a secondary giving program. So raise up a dedicated prayer team for very specific requests, especially during your giving Sundays. Now, communication is equally critical. Be specific and detailed about the projects that you're raising money for. Don't say a generic, hey, we're raising money for missions. Far better to do something like this. The $8,000 we raise will buy this motorbike for this missionary in, let's say, Indonesia, and put up a picture. Here's the make and the model, might be a different color, and here's the missionary. And that $8,000 is going to go to that missionary for that motorbike. People connect with concrete outcomes, not vague generalities. And also use multiple communication channels, short video clips for social media, detailed emails, SMS updates, and also special events where you're talking about the areas where the money is going to help. I think churches typically under communicate primarily because they worry about, oh, there's too many emails, too many texts, too many messages going out. But remember, the only person who sees every one of those messages is the person who's sending them. Yeah, people these days know how to filter out text messages they don't want or emails that they don't read. They know how to unsubscribe or say, stop. Let people make the choice there. Don't make it for them. Can also encourage you with secondary giving programs that you build momentum through special events because you're going to have a season, a 3 or 4 week season around your secondary giving program. And you have special events like church dinners, guest speakers, small group presentations, prayer meetings. Use those gatherings to cast vision, to tell stories of what you achieved last year and what you plan to achieve in the year to come. Kind of creates some enthusiasm and some momentum even before you do the big ask. Now, in my book, I talk about the 3 Sundays of giving because all the things that you've got to do in terms of stories and creating momentum, eventually you've got to say to people, hey, we want you to give. And I think it's important to structure this around 3 consecutive Sundays, but you start your preparation about a month beforehand. During the preparation month, you let your congregation know what's coming and how they compare best for that. Then you share your vision through those multiple comms channels we talked about. It introduces special projects, allow people time to assimilate the information, pray over it, and consider what their giving is going to be. Don't just drop it in one Sunday and expect to see a great response. You need to be very systematic and process driven in this process. Over the 3 Sundays, tell the vision, tell the story, articulate your expectations. Help people understand the difference between equal giving and equal sacrifice. You know, there's wealthy people in your church, they give $500. Honestly, they wouldn't even notice it gone out of their bank account. But a single parent raising teenagers, $500 is, oh my goodness, that's going to hurt. So help people decide by breaking down annual commitments into manageable weekly amounts. $2,000 in a year sounds overwhelming to some people, but $40 a week, maybe I can reach that or budget that. Relate giving also to lifestyle changes. Where's the sacrifice? Maybe instead of buying a coffee a day, you're going to buy a coffee every third day. You're going to make a coffee at home 2 days out of every 3. That can add up to hundreds of dollars in a year. Now, when you come to the big ask people to complete a faith promise card, whether it's a physical card or a digital online card. but make sure you ask them to include their names. We would ask our church to put their name to their giving. Why? Now, I never looked at those cards. I didn't know who was giving what at all. But I would explain to our church that we need the names for budget planning and to prevent unrealistic pledges from teenagers. And you might have a 13-year-old in your church who thinks it's a real joke to write $5,000 I'm giving without a name on it. Then the church budgets on that $5,000 and then, kid was joking. Well, no joke when you're trying to do a budget around those things. I think it's also important that you communicate with your key leaders, staff, board members, leaders of departments, that they must set the pace. You know, as the pastor in our church, I aim to be in the top 10% of givers to our secondary giving programs. But I also ask our board members and staff and key leaders, please be involved at whatever level you can afford. And occasionally we'd have one of those key leaders not involved. And again, I wouldn't know what they were giving. But if a key leader or a board member wasn't involved, it led to a discipleship moment with an honest conversation and ask them, well, what's going on there? What's your commitment like to our church? Now, I think secondary giving programs aren't optional luxuries that some churches can do, or they're a big church thing. I think every church can benefit by the faith that's required to do sacrificial giving. And I think it's important to know that you've got to use faith for income. Check out this other video that I've done on using faith for income, but wisdom for expenditure. And it'll help just maybe move you in that area of faith and belief as you establish a secondary giving program. This program, I believe, can transform your church and its future and turn dreams into reality.